Imagine your blood vessels like highways during rush hour. Now imagine that same highway during a heat wave, with no airflow, traffic backed up, and pressure rising fast. That's exactly what's happening inside your body when you don't drink enough water. Every single day, your heart works like a tireless pump, pushing life through 60,000 miles of blood vessels. But here's the twist most people over 60 don't realize. When you don't hydrate properly, your blood thickens, your vessels tighten, and your blood pressure silently rises. It's not just salt or stress. It could be as simple as not drinking water at the right time, or in the right way. And yet, how many of us say, "I'm not thirsty. I don't want to wake up at night. Water is just boring." Here's the truth. Water is more than a thirst quencher. It's your body's cheapest, safest, and most natural blood pressure medicine, with zero side effects. So in this video, I'll show you when to drink water to support healthy blood pressure, how much your body actually needs, and a morning trick that can jumpstart your heart health before breakfast. Stick with me to the end, because I'll share one small change to your water routine that could make a big difference in your numbers, starting tomorrow. This isn't just about drinking more water, it's about drinking smarter. Let's dive in. Let me ask you something personal. When was the last time you felt really thirsty? Chances are, you can't remember. And that's exactly the problem. As we age, something strange happens inside our bodies. Our thirst signal, the body's natural alarm system, gets quieter. It's like a smoke detector with a dying battery. You stop hearing the beeping, even when the fire is still burning. Studies show that over 75% of older adults are chronically dehydrated and don't even realize it. No dry mouth, no feeling of thirst. But inside, blood is thicker, the heart is working harder, the brain is foggier, and most importantly, your blood pressure is quietly climbing. Let's pause here for a quick story. Helen, one of our viewers from Arizona, is 67. She walks every morning, watches her salt intake, takes her meds, and eats pretty well. But her blood pressure kept creeping higher, until one day her nurse asked, "Helen, how much water are you drinking?" Her answer, "I don't feel thirsty. Maybe 2 glasses a day?" Within 1 week of adjusting her water intake, her BP dropped by 10 points. Here's the part most people miss. Dehydration symptoms don't always scream. Sometimes they whisper. Dizziness when standing up, fatigue in the afternoon, mild headaches, constipation, or just feeling off. But all of those can point to low fluid volume in the blood, which forces the heart to compensate by pushing harder. And when the heart pushes harder, the pressure goes up. So if you're watching this and thinking, "But I don't feel thirsty, so I must be fine," let me gently say, that's not how the aging body works anymore. Dehydration may be the silent fuel behind your high blood pressure. And in the next section, we'll uncover exactly how it happens inside your body and why timing matters even more than quantity. So don't go anywhere, because the next 60 seconds might change the way you look at water forever. Let's talk about what's really happening inside your body when you're not drinking enough water. Imagine this. Your circulatory system is like an old-school fire hydrant system, pipes, valves, and pressure. Now imagine there's not enough water in that system. What happens? The pressure doesn't go down, it goes up, because the system tries to maintain flow by forcing what little fluid it has through narrower, tighter channels. That's exactly what your body does. Here's how it works. When you're dehydrated, your blood volume decreases, meaning there's less fluid circulating through your veins. So your body panics a little. It releases vasopressin, a hormone that tells your blood vessels to tighten, called vasoconstriction. Why? Because your body's trying to conserve every drop of fluid. But that tightening? it spikes your blood pressure. And it doesn't stop there. Your kidneys kick in too. They sense the low volume and hold on to salt and water. That extra salt raises pressure even more. So now you've got narrower pipes, thicker blood, and a harder working heart, all from something as simple as forgetting to drink water. And you might be thinking, but I don't feel dehydrated. Let me ask you this. Do you ever feel tired for no reason? Ever stand up and feel dizzy for a moment? Do your hands or feet sometimes feel cold, even indoors? Those could all be signals of low blood volume, and they're more common after age 60. Here's the scary part. Most people treat their high blood pressure with more meds, more pills, but never look at water, the most natural solution hiding in plain sight. And because dehydration builds up slowly over time, the damage adds up silently until one day your numbers are out of control. But here's the good news. Your body responds fast to hydration. Within hours, you can improve blood flow, soften vessel tension, and support healthy kidney function. Water can do what meds sometimes can't, without a single side effect. But just drinking more water isn't the answer. You need to drink the right amount at the right time. And that's exactly what we're about to uncover in the next section. So keep watching, because the first glass of the day might be more powerful than your morning pill. Let's take a deep breath and come back to something beautifully simple. Water. It's not fancy. It's not sold in a bottle with a celebrity on the label. But it's the most underestimated medicine your heart has ever known. You see, every time you drink water, your body performs a quiet miracle. That glass doesn't just go into your stomach. It becomes part of your blood plasma, helps thin your blood, improves flow, and tells your blood vessels, you can relax now. Everything's okay. Water helps your kidneys flush out excess sodium, the main villain behind high blood pressure. It helps your nervous system calm down, reducing the hormones that cause your vessels to squeeze tight. And most importantly, it supports the natural rhythm of your heart. In simple terms, water helps your heart do its job with less strain. Think of it like oil in an engine. Without it, everything grinds and overheats. But with just the right amount, the system hums quietly, efficiently, smoothly. And that's the goal, isn't it? To live your days not in fear of the next blood pressure reading, but with calm confidence that your body is working with you, not against you. Coming up next, let's talk about exactly how much water your body needs each day, and why that old 8 glasses advice might be leaving you underhydrated without knowing it. Because when it comes to blood pressure, it's not just about drinking water, it's about drinking smart. Let's clear up one of the biggest myths we've all heard for decades. You should drink 8 glasses of water a day. That might work for some folks, but it's not one size fits all. And for seniors over 60, that advice might actually leave you dehydrated. You see, as we age, our bodies go through real changes. Our kidneys become less efficient at conserving water. We lose muscle mass, which holds water, and we don't feel thirsty, even when we really need to drink. So how much water do you actually need? Here's a better rule of thumb. Take your body weight in pounds and divide it by 2. That's how many ounces of water you need per day. Example, if you weigh 160 pounds, 160 divided by 2 equals 80 ounces of water daily. That's about 10 cups, 8 ounces. But here's the key, you don't have to drink it all at once. Spacing it out across the day is what makes it work for your heart and kidneys. And here's something most people overlook. Your medications may be dehydrating you. Common blood pressure meds, like diuretics, pull water out of your system. If you don't replace that water, your blood becomes more concentrated, and ironically, your pressure goes back up. It's like running a sprinkler system on half a tank. It sputters, then surges. Warning signs you're already dehydrated: dark yellow urine, dry mouth or cracked lips, lightheadedness or dizziness when standing, constipation, brain fog, or confusion in the afternoon. If any of those feel familiar, your body is whispering, "I need water." And here's something empowering. You can fix this in a single day. So, now that we know how much water you need, let's go one step deeper. When should you drink it to get the biggest benefit for your blood pressure? Because timing, believe it or not, can make all the difference. That's what we'll explore next. So now that we know how much water your body needs, let's unlock the secret of when to drink it. Because here's the truth. Your body runs on rhythm. Just like the tides, the sun, and your sleep cycle, your blood pressure rises and falls on a 24-hour clock. And drinking water in sync with that rhythm, it can gently nudge your numbers in the right direction without medication. Number 1. First thing in the morning, prime the pump. Time: within 10 to 15 minutes after waking. Amount: 250 to 300 milliliters, about 1 cup. When you wake up, your body is naturally dehydrated. You haven't had a sip of water for 7 to 8 hours. Your blood is thicker, your vessels are tighter, and your blood pressure, usually highest in the morning. Drinking a glass of warm or room temperature water right away kickstarts circulation, flushes out overnight toxins, helps the kidneys start filtering sodium, and most importantly, lowers the morning BP spike. It's like oiling your engine before you hit the gas. Add a slice of lemon for a gentle liver detox. Totally optional, but refreshing. Number 2. 30 minutes before meals. Prep the system. Time: before breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Amount: 1 glass each time. This is a powerful trick few people know. Drinking water before a meal helps with digestive enzyme activation, smoother nutrient absorption, less salt retention from food, and better post-meal blood pressure control. Plus, it reduces overeating, which can help with weight, another BP factor. But don't drink large amounts with meals. It may dilute stomach acid. Before is best. Number 3. Before physical activity. Fuel the flow. Time: 20 to 30 minutes before walking, stretching, gardening, etc. Amount: half a glass to 1 full glass. Even light movement causes sweating, especially for seniors. Water before activity keeps blood volume stable, prevents heart rate spikes, supports smoother vessel expansion during movement. Think of it as topping off your tank before a short trip. Number 4. 60 to 90 minutes before bed. Support the night shift. Time: after dinner, but not too close to sleep. Amount: half to 1 glass. This one's tricky. Many seniors avoid evening water to prevent nighttime urination, but skipping it entirely means your body lacks hydration during deep repair hours. So the sweet spot? A small glass at least an hour before bed. Enough to support overnight detoxification, heart rhythm regulation, stroke and heart attack prevention, which peak at 2 to 4 a.m. Don't chug. Sipping water throughout the day is much better than big gulps a few times. Imagine watering a plant gently every few hours versus flooding it once a day. That's how your heart prefers it too. You're doing amazing, and now you know when to drink water to support your heart. But let's go even further. In the next part, we'll uncover a surprising truth. Not all water is created equal. What you drink and how cold it is could be helping or hurting your blood pressure. Let's talk quality, temperature, and clarity, coming up next. So far, we've talked about how much water to drink and when to drink it. But there's one more piece to this puzzle that most people completely overlook: the quality and temperature of the water you're putting into your body. You wouldn't fuel your car with dirty gas, right? Then why fuel your heart, the most precious engine you'll ever own, with questionable water? Let's start with quality. Tap water in the US is generally safe, but that doesn't mean it's always ideal. In many cities, it contains trace amounts of chlorine, fluoride, even microscopic metals and pharmaceutical residues. Now, for most people, the levels are within safe limits. But for someone over 60 with blood pressure issues, your body's ability to filter and handle toxins may not be what it once was. That's why filtered water, through a certified pitcher, under-sink system or countertop purifier, can make a real difference, not just in taste, but in how your body responds. Cleaner water equals less burden on the kidneys. And remember, healthy kidneys mean better blood pressure control. Now let's talk about temperature. Many people love ice water, especially on a hot day. But here's the catch. When you drink very cold water, your blood vessels constrict. That means your circulation tightens up, and ironically, your blood pressure can temporarily increase. Think of it like a sudden cold draft hitting a warm pipe. It contracts instantly. For seniors especially, that constriction can stress the heart. On the other hand, room temperature or warm water helps your blood vessels relax and expand. It supports digestion, improves kidney flow, and puts less strain on your heart. So if you're sipping water to support your blood pressure, not just quench thirst, go easy on the ice. Let the water work with your body, not against it. You see, it's not just about drinking water. It's about choosing the right kind of water at the right temperature in the right moment. And, speaking of the right moment, there's one powerful habit you can add tomorrow morning that could help your heart more than any supplement. Let me show you what one simple glass of water, taken at the right time, can do. Coming up, your morning hydration ritual. There's a small, quiet moment each morning that holds surprising power. Before the coffee, before the news, before the day gets busy. It's that moment when your feet touch the floor and your body wakes up from its nightly fast. And in that moment, your heart is under pressure. See, after 6 to 8 hours without water, your blood becomes thicker, your vessels are more constricted, your kidneys are on standby, and your nervous system is still shifting out of sleep mode. That's why most heart attacks and strokes occur between 6 and 10 a.m. It's not coincidence, it's physiology. But here's the hopeful part. You can change that trend with a single glass of water. Not a pill, not a protein shake, just one warm glass of water, 250 to 300 milliliters, first thing in the morning. Think of it as a morning massage for your circulatory system. It gently rehydrates your blood, signals your kidneys to begin flushing excess salt, activates your metabolism, and tells your arteries, you're safe, you can relax. Add a slice of lemon if you'd like, not for magic, but for a light dose of vitamin C and to kickstart your digestion. Even better, pair it with 3 deep belly breaths as you sip. Inhale for 4 seconds, hold for 7, exhale for 8. It relaxes your nervous system and amplifies the pressure-lowering effect. No rush, no pressure. Just you and your heart working together. This habit takes less than a minute, but practiced daily, it can ripple through your entire cardiovascular system in ways you won't even feel, until your next doctor visit surprises you. So tomorrow morning, skip the scroll, skip the stress, and start with stillness and a glass of water. Try it for just 3 days. Watch how your energy shifts. Watch how your body thanks you. And we're not done yet. In the next section, I'll show you how to upgrade your water even further with simple, natural additions that amplify its blood pressure benefits without costing a fortune. Because nature has given us a few gentle helpers, and they're sitting right in your kitchen. By now, you've learned how water alone can be a powerful ally for your heart. But if you'd like to take it one step further, there are a few simple natural additions that can turn your everyday glass into a gentle blood pressure support tonic. Let's start with something timeless: lemon. Just a thin slice added to warm water gives you a light dose of vitamin C, a natural antioxidant that supports blood vessel flexibility. It also provides a mild alkalizing effect, which some experts believe helps reduce internal inflammation, a known contributor to high blood pressure. Yes, the same tiny seeds used in smoothies or puddings. When you drop a teaspoon into your water and let them soak for 15 to 20 minutes, they absorb liquid and form a gel-like texture. That gel carries soluble fiber, which slows digestion, stabilizes blood sugar, and supports better blood pressure control. Plus, chia seeds are rich in omega-3s, the same heart-healthy fats found in fish. Another favorite? Apple cider vinegar. Just 1 teaspoon in a glass of water, ideally before a meal, may improve insulin sensitivity and help the body metabolize sugar more efficiently, an indirect but important way to manage hypertension, especially for those with metabolic issues. And finally, for taste and aroma, try adding a fresh mint leaf or a slice of cucumber. They don't just make water more refreshing, they make it inviting. And the more you enjoy your water, the more likely you are to stick with your hydration habit. These aren't magic potions. They're gentle nudges, ways to work with your body, not fight it. So experiment. Find the flavor that makes water something you look forward to, not just something you have to drink. Because the more enjoyable this habit becomes, the more powerful its results. Now, let's bring it all home. Water isn't just a beverage. It's a quiet act of care for your heart, your brain, your kidneys, and your future. Each glass you drink is a message to your body that says, I'm still here. I'm still taking care of you. You don't need drastic changes or expensive supplements, just a simple shift in habit, a glass in the morning, a sip before meals, a quiet moment of awareness. Do it for 3 days, then 7, then make it part of who you are. Because the truth is, the best medicine doesn't always come in a bottle. Sometimes it comes from your faucet. If this video helped you, send it to someone you love. Click like, hit subscribe, and join us here at Senior Health Guide, where your best years are still ahead and your heart knows it. We're here with you, one sip at a time.